What's up, guys? My name is Schramm, and I'm from the Whitehouse campus. Let's start with an awkward moment in my life. I was a freshman in high school. I was a starter for my school's varsity soccer team. Rossford, let's go. And from the entire fall, I hung out with all the Fords. And most of them were older, the upperclassmen, but for me, that was kind of cool. Okay, it was really cool. Most of the guys on the team were those who played in traveled teams around the area. And I'd played with them before, and I decided to do so again and get closer to the guys. We left for a tournament down in Columbus because we were doing pretty good, and we were the number 2 seed. And if you don't know what that means, then we were expected to do pretty good. We were supposed to take second place. And the first night of competition, we were at the stadium, and I was hanging out with some of the guys near the snacks, and this girl from another school walked up, and as you can tell, I was pretty excited. She started talking to us. Okay, let's be fair. She was talking to the older guys on my team. One of them was our captain, who started in my position, and he was older and way cooler than me. And being laid back and confident, he turned to everybody and introduced her to the team. And he said, "Hey, this is Colin, this is Will, this is Derek." And he got to me and he paused and he looked at me. And with that awkward look on his face, he said, "Sorry, bro, what's your name again?" Ouch. And that's when my stomach sank. That's when I knew I wasn't as in as I thought I was. And of course, it was my turn to respond. So I tried to play it off, but it became real clear to me that we weren't as good of friends as I thought we were. I mean, I hadn't been part of the team that long, but I hung out with these guys all the time. I was literally in the same position, which means we practiced together every practice, and he didn't even know my name. Have you ever been there? Like where you thought you were tight with somebody and you figured out your friendship or your relationship wasn't as legit as you thought it was? It's not a great feeling. Because deep down inside, I think we all live with this expectation. Relationships shouldn't be fake. Regardless of whether you're not a real social person, I think we'd all agree that when it comes to our relationships, with our friends or with people that we spend a lot of time with, we want real friends, not fake ones, right? I don't want fake friends. Friends who feel like they have to pretend when they're around me, or who don't care as much as they act like when we're hanging out. Whether it's the people you hang out with, from the people in your band, from your teammates in a sport or an extracurricular activity, or a group chat you have, we all want more than that. In a word, we want our relationships to be personal. But there's a cheat code, by the way, or a shortcut if you're figuring out a relationship is personal. It's easy. You know how I know if somebody is not personal with me? They call me a generic name like, "What's up, dude?" Or "Bro." Bruh. Or every time they see me, they just kind of say, "Hey, you?" You've probably experienced this kind of fakeness with somebody. They act like they care about you. They act like they're your friend, and they keep referring to you as guy or fam or some other name that's your actual name. The one that you literally lived with for years because, you guessed it, it's just like my friends from soccer practice. They don't know your real name. And people knowing our names matters to us. It makes us feel important. It makes us feel known. It makes us feel like there's a connection between us and the person who knows our name. Because nobody wants a fake friend or a fake relationship. But you know what the opposite of fake is? Real, right? I totally agree when it comes to sunglasses, art, or anything else I buy at wish.com. The opposite of fake is real. But when it comes to relationships, I think there's a better word actually. When it comes to people, the opposite of real is personal. Think about it. Somebody can be real without knowing you personally. They can be a cool person, they can be a cool guy without being close to you at all. They can even know something about you, like what math class you're in, or they might even notice something about you, what kind of brands you're wearing, but it doesn't make it personal. Being personal puts somebody in a whole different category, and that's what this series is about. If I asked you to name everyone you can think of who knows your name, how many people do you think would make that list? And I also wonder if you did make that list for somebody else. Or would you put God on that list? Here's the thing. Some of you have grown up hearing that God knows your name. There are a bunch of examples in the Bible how God knows us closely. Like when Jesus says this, "Indeed, the very hairs on our heads are numbered," Luke 12:7. Seriously, that's getting pretty personal. And some of us, that's not that much. While we might think it's a little strange that somebody knows how many hairs are on our head, some of us, it's a struggle with the idea that God knows us personally. Maybe you feel like this. Does God really know me? Does he know my name? Or is he like my friend buddy going, "Hey, bro," for years? There can be a lot of reasons you feel this way about God. You might feel like he doesn't seem personal because, well, you can't see him, or you can't talk to him the way you talk to your friends. Or maybe you don't really know much about God at all, or even care much about him. So it feels strange to think that he'd know your name and care about you. Maybe you've met Christians who don't seem to care about you a whole lot. So why would you care? Why would God? Maybe you think he doesn't seem personal because if he's real, if he's just so big, if he created everything, what makes us so important? Like, why would he know me individually? I mean, let's pretend that all of us believe in a God who created everything. Are we to believe that God created everything, but he knows my name? He knows your name? Check it. This is the Sombrero Galaxy. Not kidding, that's its real name. The Sombrero Galaxy is found in the constellation Virgo with 31,100,000 light years away from Earth. The God that created this massive thing knows my name. And the God that created the Butterfly Nebula knows my name. It's the most complex that we've ever observed. The central star is one of the hottest stars known, with a surface temperature exceeding 450,000 degrees. Am I expected to believe that the God that created all this knows me personally? This last one is called the Pillars of Creation. It's made up of interstellar gas and dust in the Eagle Nebula, some 7,000 light years from Earth. The gas and the dust are in the process of creating new stars while also being eroded by light and creating new stars that have been recently formed. We're to believe that a God so big and so powerful that he could create all of this and take the time and energy to know my middle name, which is, never mind, I'm not sharing that. But seriously, in a universe so massive and detailed, why would he care about me? Well, I think these are actually some of the real and understandable reasons I truly believe that God does. I believe that he cares for you, and he cares for me. And I believe that he knows not just my name, but he knows your name as well. And you matter to him. And here's why I think that. Fakeness is literally the opposite of how Jesus lived. Jesus got personal with basically everyone he met. He knew their name and he knew their story. He slowed down time after time for individuals, and that could offer him nothing. One of those people that Jesus interacted with that helps me believe that God is personal and that God knows my name is a guy named Zacchaeus. Say it with me, Zacchaeus. Now we'll be talking about Zacchaeus for the next few weeks, so I'm giving you a heads up. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, which might not seem like a huge deal in our culture, but back then, tax collectors were basically considered scammers and traitors. First off, Zacchaeus was a Jewish guy working for the Roman Empire, an entire nation that basically bullied the Jewish people. That's not bad enough. Tax collectors, they weren't exactly stand-up dudes. They'd always collected more than what they were supposed to. They pocketed the rest. A tax collector was the kind of guy that steals money that you're collecting for a school fundraiser just so we can get some energy drinks. And this guy was a chief of tax collectors. Not good. The worst of the worst. Tax collectors were so distrusted that they weren't even allowed to testify in court. Their word was no good. So at this point in Jesus' life, he'd gone from a casual carpenter's son to being a big deal. He was known for all these miracles he'd performed and powerful messages that he'd given. By this point, basically everywhere he went, crowds would gather to try and get a glimpse of him, of this rabbi, Jesus, who was healing people. That's what happened when he passed through the town of Jericho on his way to Jerusalem and met a guy named Zacchaeus. Here's how the interaction is recorded by Luke, a guy who interviewed a bunch of people in real time who witnessed Jesus' life and ministry. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and he called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be your guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly came down the tree and took Jesus into his house in great excitement and joy. Luke 19:5-6. Let's break this down a little bit. Out of this giant crowd following Jesus to Jerusalem and the giant crowd of people of Jericho just trying to get a peek at Jesus as he passes through, Jesus stops and chats with this dude named Zacchaeus, maybe the most hated man in this whole town. This is a huge deal. Getting this kind of attention from Jesus is crazier than if your favorite celebrity random started following you on Instagram and commenting on all of your pictures. Now, not only did Jesus call out this guy watching from a tree, but did you notice what he calls him? He calls him by his name. He didn't just say, hey guy, come on down. He calls Zacchaeus by his name. Then, not only does Jesus call him by name, but he invites himself over to Zacchaeus' house. Everyone else knows how much of an honor this would have been to be responded by Jesus like this. But the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of this notorious sinner, they grumbled. Okay, maybe you wouldn't use the word grumbled, but basically, they were being haters. This was a guy who nobody liked. Nobody. Nobody would have wanted to be seen hanging around with this guy. And yet Jesus goes straight towards him. But real talk, why do we care? Why is this important? Because this isn't just a story about Zacchaeus. It's about Jesus and how he treats people. He paid attention to the guy on the sidelines. The guy who anybody else would have been annoying. The guy nobody was noticing. The guy I bet nobody cared to learn his name. The guy that Jesus made sure to know and to use his name. And by the way, he does this for you. He does the same thing for you. Jesus knows your name. This is how God sees us. He is the creator of the entire universe and everything in it. Yes, he is a God who has always been around, and our brain can't even comprehend that. He also knows you personally. He knows your past, he knows your story, and he still wants time with you. Okay, all this might feel a little ridiculous to you. Maybe the whole idea of faith feels a little unreal, far-fetched, and that's all right. Like Zacchaeus, the best thing for some of us this week is just to find ourselves out what Jesus thinks about us. Zacchaeus probably had no idea of totally changing his life when he first got up in that tree. But he was just taking his first step towards Jesus for himself. No matter what you think about God or faith or Christians, I want you to know this. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. And for some people, that doesn't always sit well. You might have questions about that. You might have doubts about any of this, and that's okay. But what would it look like if you were to hop up in that tree and get a better look? To reimagine or to think about what God is like, to start asking some questions. Maybe those questions might sound something like this. What is God really like? What does he say about me? What does God say about the people around me? Basically, Jesus changed the way everybody thought about God. There's just something that happens when we recognize that this God of the universe is a personal God. It changed Zacchaeus' life. It already changed the lives of so many others. And it doesn't stop there. We've talked about how powerful it is to be known personally by God. That he knows your name, he knows you, and he cares about you. But if that's true for you, that's also true for the person next to you, and your siblings, and your parents, and that kid at school that you avoid and the teachers can't stand. Here's what I'm getting at. A relationship with Jesus is always personal. It's personal for you and it's personal for me. So let me ask you this. How can we make it personal for others? Your piano teacher, your lacrosse coach, the person you know in science class, or the girl who somehow always ends up in your projects, the guy who gets on your nerves, your best friend's little brother, or the guy, maybe, who forgot your name that one time. They matter. They all matter, just like you. And here's why that's a big deal. The people around you may not know that God cares about them personally until you care about them personally. I get it. It seems so basic, but that's why it's a big deal. Knowing someone's name is an absolute simple thing, and we can communicate that someone matters by doing this. And if someone feels like they don't matter, it can also have a huge impact. So an easy way to do this is with people younger than you. A couple years ago, what if some upperclassmen had genuinely taken an interest in you, in your life, and how would that have made you feel? Upperclassmen, do that for some freshmen or for some sophomores, freshmen and sophomores. Find some middle schoolers that you can invest in and spend time with, or at least begin to call them by their name. We have a personal God. He also happens to be a personal God who is also mind-blowingly powerful, ridiculously creative, overly graceful, but he still knows your name and he calls you by it. One of the greatest ways that we can point people to this kind of personal God is by modeling what it looks like to be personal with others. That's why we have small groups. By the way, if you didn't know that, we believe that every person is loved and known personally by Jesus, and because of that, we want you to always have a group of people who know you personally, who know you by name, and who know your story. No one should ever walk through the doors wherever you're at and feel like they don't fit in. Jesus always made it personal with the people around him, and you can do it too, simply by knowing their name.